Hello everyone, my name is Tulsiram. Here I am to discuss a research paper review, which is a topic, the 5-minute rule 10 years later, and the other computer storage rules of the thumb. Going on to the topic, the problem addressed in the 5-minute rule 10 years later and the other computer storage rules of thumb is how to optimize computer storage systems to balance performance and the cost. Specifically, the paper has discussed about the rules of thumb that can be used to determine the optimal size and configuration of the storage system with a focus on 5-minute rule. Moving on to the next slide. So they have discussed the authors make the important issues clear throughout the paper, providing clear explanations of the principle they discuss using practical examples to illustrate their points. The paper is well organized and easily to follow, which helps to ensure that the important issues are effectively communicated to the reader. So what are the important issues? Clarifying important issues. The problem is clearly stated in the paper as the authors began by introducing the 5-minute rule and its relevance to modern storage systems. Then after that, they go on discussing the other rules of thumb related to storage, providing different kind of examples of how these rules can be applied in the practice. So coming on to the significance of the problem in the 5-minute rule 10 years later and the other computer storage rules of the thumb is significant and relevant in the field of computer storage systems. While discussing, as datasets continue to grow in size, it becomes increasingly important to optimize storage systems to balance performance and cost. And the rules of the thumb discussed in the paper have provided a practical guidance for system designers and also the administrators, which helps to ensure that the storage systems are configured in an optimal way. And the real world implications for these thumb rules. There are several practical and real world applications of the paper's result. Let's say for an example, the principles discussed in the paper that can be used to optimize the storage systems used in scientific computing and financial systems and the other types of data intensive applications. By using the rules of thumb described in the paper, it is possible to achieve better performance and cost saving compared to less optimized storage systems. So what is new in this paper? So while going through the paper, we have found out some of these points. While some of the principles discussed in the paper are not new, the authors do provide updates and clarifications to the 5-minute rule and the other rules of the thumb that have been proposed in the past. So additionally, the authors provide practical examples and guidelines for how to apply these principles in practice, which adds value and relevance to the paper, and why they stated it's a challenging. The difficulty of solving the problem addressed in the 5-minute rule 10 years later another computing storage system depends on the specific context and requirements of the storage system in question. So in general, determining the optimal size and configuration of a storage system can be challenging due to a large search space involved. Additionally, the factors such as size and frequency of data access and the cost of memory and disk, the desired performance levels, can also impact the complexity of the problem. So the author stated that by the factors causing the size and frequency of data and these kind of factors that are affecting the performance levels and this increasing the complexity of a problem. So what are the limitations of a related work? What is the novelty? Has the problem has been solved before? Is this a trivial variation on or extension of previous results? Is the author aware of related previous works, both recent and old? What are the assumptions and limitations of related work? Which limitation is solved in the paper? Critique an assumption that you believe is unreasonable. What is the impact of removing this unreasonable assumption on the solution proposed by the authors? These are some of the limitations that are presented in the paper that the author has been discussed about. So coming on to the next slide. These are the statements that I've understood after going through this paper. The problem that is stated in the paper is not a new problem which has been there before, and many of the rules of thumb presented in the paper have been proposed before. For example, as I was going through the paper, I saw this. They have discussed the use of caching, indexing, and compression techniques, as well as the use of RAID, which is nothing but redundant array of independent disks, and other data redundancy techniques. So what are the contributions done by the authors? The problem addressed in the paper is not entirely new, and many of the rules of thumb presented in the paper have been proposed before. The authors propose several rules of the thumb, such as 5-minute rule, which states that the optical block size for a disk-based system is the size that can be read from disk in 5 minutes. They can also discuss other rules of thumb related to data organization, indexing, and compression. The paper includes both experimental and analytical evaluation, with the authors presenting several examples and case studies to demonstrate the effectiveness of their proposed rules of thumb. They've also provided analytical models to help explain the underlying principles behind these rules of thumb. Overall, the paper provided a useful framework for understanding and optimizing storage systems. The practical guidelines and examples makes it a valuable resource for system designers and administrators. So what is the validation methodology that they have discussed in the paper? So they have discussed case study, statistical hypothesis testing, analytical evaluation, computational complexity, theory and luminescent proof, experimental evaluation, and the strength and weakness of the methodology. And why did authors choose these methodology? So concluding this topic, the paper includes several case studies and practical examples to demonstrate the effectiveness of a proposed rules of thumb. Let's say an example. The authors discussed how the 5-minute rule can be used to optimize the block size for a database system. And they've also provided examples of how compression and indexing techniques can be used to improve storage system performance. There is no statistical hypothesis, testing, or formal proofs in the paper. Instead, the authors rely on analytical models and experimental evaluation to support the proposed rules of thumb. So by this, I'm concluding the topic of 5-minute thumb rule.